Hey everyone, this is the Tennis and Bagels podcast. Monte Carlo has just finished, and here with me today I have the host of a different podcast, the On the Line podcast, also from the On the Line tennis blog. He has written for Popcorn Tennis. He is a tennis stats extraordinaire. It is Jack Edward. Jack, how are you?
Thanks, but yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Owen. Thanks for introducing me as a stats extraordinaire. That's always a nice little tagline to have in my name. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. It's tennis season in Scotland, so we started playing competitively, which is always good fun. So that always puts me in a good mood. Otherwise, the tennis has been nice to watch too. So I've
Yeah,
been enjoying myself. It's
yeah,
good.
that's fantastic. It was and yeah, it was a great tournament in Monte Carlo. Going in the everyone was hoping to see Djokovic Alcaraz. Both those players went out in the first round, and we still got a great week. Um,
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking we could start with the champion, Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I wanted to talk about him in kind of a few different ways. First of all, he won this tournament last year as well, and I was
Mhm.
kind of curious to see how you thought his form compared from last year to this year.
Well, good question, I suppose. Yeah, casted my mind back. I mean, I'm trying to remember who even played last year. So he played Rublev. That match was really good, but Rublev looked like the weaker player. I thought his win, yeah, I'd say that then. If I was making a direct comparison to the two best players he played in each year, respectively, I think his win over Zverev was much more confident and, well, not much more, but a little bit more competent than the win over Rublev. So I'd say he looked a bit better, I thought. And obviously the Schwartzman win, the repercussions of that's a really big deal. This will come out in the blog and stuff. So I've done a little bit of research on this, fortunately. But Tsitsipas coming from a breakdown in final sets in general, just one break, doesn't happen often at all. Like a double breakdown, that was unprecedented. He's never come back from that deficit before
That's
in a final
incredible.
set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't know that, and I think the timing of it was hugely opportune as well because I mean, it wasn't necessarily that he hadn't been playing well. Like in Miami, I thought he played well against Alcaraz, but lost anyway. But in general, he had had a string of results that were really not great for him. And I think
yeah,
here, and he actually hadn't won a tournament since Monte Carlo last year. And so I think going into
yeah.
this title defense down a double break against Schwartzman, it was
Did he have?
dire.
Did he have? Did he have Leon? Maybe I don't know. Maybe he had Leon,
Maybe
but
I'm not sure, but I think
we don't count those vulture tournaments. Definitely.
I thought I had
Like,
seen something, but in any event, it had been a while.
yeah,
And then yeah, and he pulled it out. It was incredible.
yeah, definitely. I'm remembering a few of the opponents from last year now. So ADF, he beat last year obviously as
Mhm.
well, but that was a walkover. Then he had Dan, and I think Dan obviously he barely won a clay court match prior to actually entering Monte Carlo. So that was a little bit of a fluke, not a fluke run obviously, but against Tsitsipas, established clay court, probably top three in the world. Yeah, it didn't. It looked like it was out of sorts. And then maybe Christian Garin as well. I think that was a really good win. But so Schwartzman and Zverev, even those two wins, I think were better than Garin and Rublev for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Something interesting I thought though was that in the final, and I should say I only saw the second set of this. I thought for good chunks of the second set, he was pretty far from his best, and I kind of mean that as a compliment because he won the
Mhm.
set anyway. And I thought Davidovich Fokina hit some fantastic shots. The crowd was behind him. Almost felt like he was redlining at times.
Yeah.
And Tsitsipas dealt with him anyway. Like his base
Yeah.
level on clay is so high.
Yeah, it was about exactly the same thing. I agree. Like he was kind of just rolling in that second set, wasn't he? And obviously, yeah, there was obviously tense moments. I'm sure he was like 15-30 at 5-6 or something like that. And he didn't, I can't remember if he came out with a stunning shot at that point, but either way, like I'm sure, I think actually that one he did have to force an error from ADF. So yeah, okay, he stepped up his game a little bit for sure. We don't want to undercredit the guy, but at the same time, yeah, he looked a bit out of sorts for a lot of it. Definitely serving for the match as well. It's not really like him. And I know, again, so that I had this sort of counterpoint to him not being able to win from a set down. He is actually pretty good at closing out matches as well, but he has had a
Yeah.
sort of track record over the last year of a few leads that he's kind of blown in the third set. Sorry, I put my phone in silent.
All good.
But apart from that, well, not apart from that, I'm not going to just wash over that. Actually, that is quite a big deal, I guess. So it was quite nice to see him after blowing that lead still close out the match, especially after the Schwartzman match as well. Obviously, I mean, so yeah, I agree. He wasn't playing probably playing below average, but even then, he was still able to overcome a really tense moment. I mean, so the guy's still a pressure player, even when he's playing badly, I suppose is what I'm trying to get at. You know, even when he's playing quite badly, he does manage to step it up when he really, really needs to. So, yeah, his base level is amazing. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And I totally agree about how good he is at closing matches out. I remember earlier this year, I can't remember what tournament, he was playing Jack Sock. And it was a really close match, 2 tie breaks. They split sets and it went to a deciding tie break. And Sock was up 5-3. And then he kind of made a couple errors. And then it went from being on his racket to being on Tsitsipas's racket. And it was immediately clear that Tsitsipas was not going to make the same mistakes and that he was just going to close it out. And that was what he did. And it felt so inevitable that I was almost frustrated for Sock, even though I don't even like the guy. It was just like, that was your chance. And it was so clearly gone. And so, I was a little surprised that he didn't serve it out either, but I was impressed that he won it in the tiebreak. And I did have another question, and I do want to say, first of all, that Tsitsipas has done some great stuff on hard court, most notably by winning the World Tour finals. He's made a few semis at the Australian Open, finalist at the Rogers Cup back in 2018. But his resume on clay looks much better. And I was wondering, do you think it's crazy to say, to not call him a clay specialist, but do you think it's crazy to say that he's on the fringe of that, maybe?
Yeah, out of the sort of top 10 players, I think the disparity in level between him on clay and him on hard courts is probably the largest, I guess, at the top 10 players. Well, apart from, no, even Ruud, actually. I don't know, like, probably because Tsitsipas is quite a bit better than Ruud on clay for me nowadays. I still think, that gap is probably the largest for Tsitsipas. So, but I shy away from calling him a specialist for sure. Like, I was saying that on Twitter, the Australian Open semi-finals run, when people were kind of saying Tsitsipas was dead in the water at the start of the year on hard courts. And, he just pulls that out in his sleep. The match against Sinner, I think that's the thing that just makes me think, every time I want to call him a clay court specialist, I think back to that match and I'm like, that is how well that guy can play on hard courts. There's absolutely no way we can label him on one surface, definitely, because that level was insane. It was like Federer almost at his best. Yeah, it was such a good match.
I mean, his forehand was just doing all these amazing things, and I think his issue on hard court is maybe not necessarily level. It's like there are a couple opponents who really screw him. The biggest
matchups, matchups. I agree on, definitely, because Medvedev's got him covered basically on serve and return.
Exactly.
Like the chances of him beating on a hard, I don't even think he has. I might be guessing at that, but
did it once. I think World Tour Finals 2019, but that's the only one.
Oh yeah. That was still a good win, but like the advantages that Medvedev has are just way too vast for Tsitsipas to be beating him on a hard court for sure. So that sort of like amazing sort of counter-punching returner against Zverev should be really good against him on hard courts. It's like it kind of almost flips on clay, but I feel like Zverev should be the sort of player that plays Tsitsipas consistently on a hard court too. But I think it's more matchup, definitely.
Yeah, and I think clay is so great for him because it almost papers over all his weaknesses. You have the return of serve, and clay gives him more time to kind of take those big swings, put weight on his returns instead of having to block them back, which is really a struggle for him on hard court. He lets him defend more. He's a great defender, especially on the forehand side. And I think it helps his slice as well. Like his slice is usually not a strength, but people were saying his slice defense was an asset this week.
You guys were going crazy over it. Yeah, so I agree, definitely. And I've been looking out for the technical point on the slice, the closed stance rather than the open stance, and seems to have changed. I don't know if that's an Enqvist thing, and he's maybe sort of worked on that with Tsitsipas, but way more often he's got that front leg over leading basically on the slice, and you could see it on a few of the slices he played against Zverev. They just like shot off the court and they stayed super low, and way better than some of the slices he was playing last year. So maybe it's a confidence thing. I don't know. Like I'm not really. I don't know, but it definitely looked like technically he's changed. He's tweaked it a bit. because he still plays the odd open stance slice and it still looks a bit better, to be fair, but maybe it's when he's got less time in the ball. So yeah, I think he's made a change and it seems to be working for him, definitely.
Yeah, and this win is going to give him a ton of confidence going forward in the clay season, which leads me to my next question, which is, compared to last year, especially, like, how do you think he stacks up against the other favorites at Roland Garros? Like, do you think he's third? Do you think Alcaraz is maybe still around there? Like, how do you see him doing at Roland Garros? Is he going to get as close to the title as he did last year?
Yeah, definitely top. Well, that's not a hot take, is it? It's definitely top three. But I think I don't want to talk about Alcaraz too much yet, obviously. But like he's definitely up there. I think maybe people saying that he's weak, not weaker on clay, but I think that's maybe a jump. He had one bad match. He definitely had a bad match. Say that much, because that was not clean at all. It almost looked like amateur level between the two of them, because there was some very, very bad stuff going on. I think people underrate the fact that you've got a transition, to Monte Carlo, and the contrast is pretty stark. Obviously, clay to French Open to Queens, Wimbledon, whatever, that's the big one that everybody talks about. But hard court to clay is massive as well, and Monte Carlo is about as clay as it comes. Your serve is the slowest in Monte Carlo statistically. Based on all the other, compared to all the other Masters and Grand Slam tournaments, like you're going to have your serve taken away from you more so there than at any other tournament at the highest level. So to get thrown in the deep end per se is pretty difficult to get used to. It's the first time Alcaraz has properly done it, so I think we can let him off, definitely. He's been playing hardcourt tennis for 9 months, so I definitely put Alcaraz right up there as well. But yeah, Tsitsipas is looking better than. Well, he's looking better than anybody at the moment. So yeah, right up there, top three. It would be silly of me to not put Djokovic and Rafa over him, but yeah, I think top three for sure. Do you feel the same way, Owen?
Yeah, I do. I do think though that I think Roland Garros is going to be tough, just because last year, he was one set away from the title, and so I think because of that, anything less than a title this year is kind of a disappointment, just because that's the next step for him. He's been as close as you can get without winning it. And I feel like unless Djokovic and Nadal are in the same half again, that's going to be really, really tough. Maybe he does it. Like maybe he gets Djokovic in a semi. He's pushed him really hard at Roland Garros before. But I think it's going to be tough. I do think like he's going to be a threat throughout the whole clay season. But if you had to ask me, like, will he be a set away from the title again? I would say no.
I think, do you know what, actually, I think if he played Djokovic again at the French Open, I'd maybe make him the favourite. I think he's got more consistent ways of winning points compared to last year, definitely, based on this one tournament. It's it's not the biggest sample size, but certainly like he is more determined than ever to get that forehand into play, isn't he? It's almost like he would like run off the court to get like past the doubles alley to get the forehand into play nowadays. He was doing it last year as well, but certainly there was a lot more dedication to it at this tournament. So I think it makes him very difficult to break down. I'm trying to even remember what happened last year for him to lose the last 3 sets. It just happened in a blink of an eye. Djokovic just played better, didn't he? To be fair, you do forget that he has that amazing, highest level that you can just tap into. But yeah, at the same time, I don't think Tsitsipas will make the mistake of. He did say that, I can't believe I not forgot, but he felt like he'd won it after 2 sets. I think he actually said that. He said something like, you can't win 2 sets to win a 5-set match. I kind of took my foot off the gas, and he admitted that. So yeah, I don't think he'd make the same mistake for sure. Intensity the whole way through, and I don't know. Yeah, I think if they played, he'd be the favourite. I'll stick to that.
That's actually a great point, because I remember watching the first day of the match they played in Rome. And I remember thinking, it's such a great matchup for Tsitsipas on clay, because I remember they were trading forehands, and it was all going Tsitsipas's way. And Djokovic eventually came back to win that match, although he had to get out of all kinds of uncomfortable positions. He was down break points all over the place. And then Tsitsipas did have the 2-set lead at Roland Garros. So yeah, I think...
did he serve for the match in Rome as well? I'm pretty sure, yeah.
In Rome? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did. He also had a break point to go up a double break in the 3rd set. He was up a break in the 2nd set. Yeah, it was that was a tough match. But I do think it's been long enough that he's probably over the trauma from that clay season now. And that's something I thought should have been talked about more, is like, besides that Monte Carlo win, that clay season was brutal, because you had a final loss in Barcelona after having championship point. You had that loss in Rome. You had a loss to Ruud in Madrid, which is less important. And then you had a loss in the Roland Garros final from 2 sets up. Doesn't get much worse than that in terms
definitely.
of pain. But now I think he's probably learned from that. So I would be surprised if he loses in the same way again.
I agree. And I think people don't really appreciate that, because he would have been in pain. Definitely, he would have been in pain for sure. And he's obviously still super young. He's going to win it at some point, I think. Definitely, probably more of a favourite to win it at some point nowadays than, say, Team, given his problems, obviously. But yeah, he's just so solid nowadays. It's really, really difficult to break him down. So I agree with all of that.
I do want to acknowledge how terrible Team's luck has been. I mean, from 2016 to 2019, he loses to the eventual Roland Garros champion all 4 years. He's supposed to be the next guy. And then some injury stuff happens. Some other players come up. And now it may not happen at all. So, Dominic, if you're listening to this, we're sorry. And we hope you come back.
Dominic. At the same time, it's mainly just Rafa, isn't it? No bad luck about facing Rafa however many times at Roland Garros, I suppose. Put it
That's
way.
true. Although I don't know, Alcaraz is going to have a decade at Roland Garros without ever having to play him. So
yeah, that's true. Well, we'll see. Rafa might play till he's 50,
45, honestly. So to move on to the runner-up in Monte Carlo, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, he had a great tournament. He beat Djokovic in the first round and then carried the momentum from that, which is really hard to do, to sustain that intensity physically and emotionally after such a huge upset. And he wasn't all that far away from winning the second set of the final. I thought, all things considered, he played a great tournament. I'm excited to see what he does next. But I was wondering, how sustainable do you think this form is? Do you think it was a purple patch, or do you think maybe it was the start of the signs of some really great form to come for the rest of the clay season?
Yeah, good question. I actually am leaning more towards it being a purple patch, to be quite honest. And again, it kind of goes into the thing I was saying earlier, the sort of theory earlier, that not theory, there is actually stats to back it up, but Monte Carlo being the biggest tournament with the lowest percentage of service points won, basically. And obviously everybody knows ADF's biggest weakness is serve. I mean, some of the serves that he gets away with in Monte Carlo compared to other tournaments are quite frankly, shocking. I mean, body serves all over the place, like barely any accuracy on them on the first serve at all. You got to remember as well, like, returning is tough to get any penetration through the court in Monte Carlo because the air is so heavy too. Basically, he went into the tournament not without a serve. It's obviously harsh. He wins a few free points off it, but compared to everybody else had that taken away from them, whereas he was kind of going on what he already had, sort of thing. And his baseline game is incredible. It's so good. It's right up there, definitely. And if everybody else, kind of had that handicap, it sounds harsh. It does sound harsh, obviously.
No, I completely agree with you. I think I feel like as a tennis community, a lot of the time we shy away from those kinds of takes, but it's not the best idea. I think I remember after the World's Tour Finals in 2020, a lot of people were saying that Medvedev was the best player in the world, and then 2 months later he loses the Australian Open final in straight sets. So I think it's always good not to kind of exaggerate what we see. And I do agree with you. I remember, I think there was a stat midway through the final where he was winning less than half the points on his first serve. And that's problematic,
100% can't be, in Madrid, for example, no way he gets away with that, definitely.
And you also just cannot beat a top player in a match with a stat like that. There's no way. So I think that definitely has to improve. But I agree that his baselining was phenomenal. One of my favorite things from him was that he's willing to hit that backhands down the line, like the risky one that goes parallel to the line into the corner, and he hits it well. Like, that is a shot that very few players are even willing to try.
Definitely.
And I thought he pulled it off very well. I thought the forehand had good pop. And he was also a really good fighter. Like, he got into some bad positions. He got the crowd behind him, although that doesn't have much to do with the tennis. But he doesn't quit on himself, which is great.
Definitely, yeah. Tsitsipas said that actually. I think
Mm.
he said something along the lines of he didn't expect him to fight when he did fight at
Yeah.
times. I don't know if that's also to do with the fact he sometimes looks a bit despondent. To be fair, like there are other times where he kind of looks like maybe his body language sags, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like he lights it
Yeah.
up. I'm sure that's not on purpose. He's not playing mind games or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, at the same time, it's a bit roller coastery. I would say that definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, who did he play again? In the semi-final, of course, he played Dimitrov. He got out of positions again. This looks like he was kind of thrown in the towel, but that underarm serve, I don't know if you saw that at break
I
point.
did. Yeah. That was a huge point.
It was a massive point, but he's got a history of doing that. So it's, it wasn't just him throwing in the towel for sure.
Yeah.
Like he did it against Ruud, I'm pretty sure, last year at the French Open, 7-5 in the fifth set, I'm pretty sure. And
Yeah, fantastic match.
Yeah, he was up 6-5, break point, and he threw in an underarm serve and won the point doing that as well. I know it's insane. You genuinely don't see it from many other players because Kyrgios isn't in that position that often.
Right. Yeah. And I think even if people say he was throwing in the towel, like it worked, so you can't possibly be mad at them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did want to say Grigor Dimitrov. I feel for the guy because, and I hate to use the word talent because I don't think that's a good way of describing a player, but I think he's so athletic and he's so flexible and covers the court so well, and his shots all fire when he hits them well. And I just think he's underachieved. So I think he would have been the underdog against Tsitsipas, but I thought he had a real shot at this tournament. And, several chances to go up a double break against Davidovich Fokina, and then just loses 5 games in a row. That can't happen.
Yeah, you got to feel like the double break would have sealed it for him, basically, definitely. A few takes I heard throughout the week, which I really liked. Robbie Koenig's take was basically Dimitrov's got, he's one of the waviest players on tour for sure. Easy 9.5 out of 10 at times when he's playing his best.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time he's below 5 out of 10. And those sort of dips you can't afford at all. Obviously, it goes without saying, but yeah, he's one of the sort of lowest dipping players on the tour, I would say, definitely. But he's playing badly, he's playing badly for sure. The other thing I heard as well was, what was it? Mine's gone blank now. Can't remember.
No worries.
Move on.
Yeah,
Move on.
I did want to go back to something you said about I did want to go back to something you said about Davidovich Fokina, where sometimes he looks tired or despondent and then he comes up with a great shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe one of the most overrated phenomenons in tennis is that when a player looks tired, that means they should play badly. And I think Djokovic is the king of this. How many times have we seen him look like he's ready to drop or puke, and then either he starts playing better immediately or he's 10 minutes of a kind of wavy patch and then he just comes back eventually. And I think all players do this at some point. Nadal in the Australian Open looked dead in the water in the final, and then 5.5 hours he ended up being fine. But I think it's such a tough thing to kind of handle as a player, because when your opponent looks like that, I think the instinct is to be like, I've got them, this is going to be easy now. And then when it gets snatched away from you, it's really tough to recover from that.
The first thing, because I remembered what it was now, is that Dimitrov has lost 9 semi-finals in a row.
That's right.
That was the other thing I heard. The mental fatigue throughout the tournament is definitely something that some players handle better than others. And I think to deal with those waves, Dimitrov doesn't do it as well as other tournaments, which may be why we see him capitulate in the latter stages of the tournament. It's not a pressure thing, because the guy doesn't really play nervy shots, I would say. He just looks like he kind of sags a bit, definitely. So other players do it a lot better than him, for sure. And then your question again was, or not question, but you said,
it wasn't really a question.
Yeah, it wasn't. But what was it again? I can't remember.
I was just talking about how it's kind of really hard to play an opponent who looks tired. Because it doesn't really correspond to how well they play a lot of the time.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say was, I went through years and years of watching Djokovic play Andy, and he looked like
2015 Australian Open final. Anyone?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I secretly hold a grudge against players who start to look a bit tired now, because I'm like, oh, they're putting it on, for fuck's sake. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, sorry. Like, you're just like, oh my God, like, stop it. But there's, legitimately people get tired. It's fine. I don't know if Djokovic is a little bit of gamemanship maybe, but generally, everybody, it happens. You have sags and tournaments, and you can still play just as well. Normally as well, there's the phenomenon of people playing a couple of electric shocks to sort of spark them up is pretty true. Like, you get the adrenaline pumping, and you can definitely play a lot better. It frees you up. And so yeah, there's maybe just looking for that electric shock sometimes when you're tired can be the catalyst for sure. That happened to ADF a few times, definitely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And for some players, that's the crowd that gets you psyched up. For other players, it's like some gluten-free food or some fruit that maybe you brought along as a snack. Djokovic. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see how much a player's energy can fluctuate over the course of a match. And I think especially in best of 5, there's room for that to happen. Like, you can go away for a set and still be fine.
Definitely. I think definitely when somebody looks tired, the other player can sometimes, this is what happens as well, for sure. This happens to some players, can start playing a little bit more passively because they're expecting the unforced error from their opponent. You give them the chance to play a massive shot, and that's what a lot of sort of top players learn over the course of their career. You got to keep the intensity up the whole time, because as soon as you sort of let a player hit a couple of massive shots, that can make the difference basically in the momentum completely. So, yeah, and also it's an even bigger factor in Monte Carlo. I think I heard Robbie Koenig sort of use this term, sort of saying Monte Carlo has been the sort of most momentum has been one of the biggest factors at Monte Carlo compared to other big tournaments throughout the year. And it's because the serve's kind of not as big a factor. You need to win from the baseline. Like, whoever's playing the more aggressive shots more consistently is going to be the winner. And that's my point basically. Like, momentum is a massive, massive factor at Monte Carlo, maybe compared to other tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why I love this tournament. Not that, saving a break point with an ace isn't earning it. It absolutely is. But I think there's something really appealing to watch where, you can be getting your butt handed to you, and you can be down a virtual match point, and you might have to dig that out with a 20-shot rally. Like, there might be no way around that. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it doesn't happen at every tournament, does it?
No, not at all.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Since we, sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. No, I was just waiting for you.
Since we mentioned Djokovic a couple times, what are your thoughts on him going forward? I mean, I think historically he hasn't had that much success at Monte Carlo. He's won it twice, but not for a while. He's kind of shown that he finds his form by Rome, and then he's fine at Roland Garros. So, do you think there's anything to read into from this loss at all? Or
no, definitely not. I am pretty much what you said there. I'm pretty sure over the last 6 years, I had it written down somewhere, I can't see it, he's won 7 matches to 6 losses, I think, at Monte Carlo. I mean, that is phenomenally bad for Djokovic, obviously, like unheard of almost. So yeah, he really doesn't. Again, it could be the transition from hard court to clay. In this case, obviously, just hitting the ground running on tennis in general, I guess, or playing tennis in general. But certainly, I heard Matt Willis's take was really good on it. He said that the forehand after the serve was completely sort of non-offensive in his match against ADF, and that does take a little bit of work to get going, because generally Djokovic is a pretty quick server, at the start of the season. It doesn't take long for that serve to get revved up. Definitely, He doesn't seem to be that cold on the serve. But again, with the serve going, +1, you need an offensive forehand from the get-go in play. I think that it did look like that's what was missing. Definitely, and there was rallies that were going on way longer than they should have, and obviously against ADF, who's going to make that even worse, a quick mover in the court. It was just a pretty terrible first match of the season for him, definitely.
Yeah, I actually remember that was a bit of a problem for him early in the clay season last year as well, like against Evans, and I think his next tournament, I don't remember who he lost to, maybe even against Karatsev. Like people were saying his forehand just wasn't enough to get it done on clay anymore, because he wasn't willing to grind. But then, did well in Rome, and at Roland Garros, he hit his forehand as well as he ever has on clay.
Yeah.
So
100%, exactly. It does just take a while, and even Rome, his form was amazing actually. Like I thought it was really good. But obviously, Roland Garros, he took it to the nth degree, and it was absolutely brilliant. So totally agree with that. Nothing to worry about, Djokovic fans. Definitely.
I think the one thing I would not flag, but maybe make a note of, is that he said he didn't have enough in the tank physically, and I think he said that he had been feeling sick. I think even Ivanisevic said something about him being a bit ill or something. But I would just say, like, if that keeps up, that could be an issue, just because you need gas to win on clay, especially at Roland Garros. So I would just say, like, the next time he plays, I'm going to be focusing on how he is physically as much as how well he hits his shots.
Yeah, for sure. Is he playing in Belgrade this week?
Yes, I think so. It's
basically the Djokovic tournament, isn't it? The Djokovic Open, even. Both of them. You'll probably be playing the second one as well, whenever that is, in August or something like that. Right. Like, this will be quite a good judge. I don't actually know. Do you know who he's playing? Maybe that would be quite interesting.
Let's see. He's got a bye to the round of 16, so we don't know yet.
Right.
But I actually think this could be quite good for him. I think the field is very decent. Team is there. Kecmanovic is there, who absolutely dismantled Gasquet today, and has been playing fantastic for a while now. So I'd love to see a match between those two.
Definitely, yeah. He would be playing Laszlo Djere probably in his second round. The wild card that Djere is against, don't know, to be fair. He might be quite good, but he's probably not ranked within the top 300 in the world. So, it's probably Djere. That's quite a tough round. Obviously, he's a lot better in clay courts than hard courts, but to be honest, actually, that's way better than ADF on clay to be playing as your first round. I think that would be not cushy, but if he loses to Djere, I would say there's definitely worries.
Yeah, I feel like just number of matches is probably more of a concern than form at this point. Like, he's going to want to win, not necessarily for the points or to show that he's playing well, but just to get that experience. He's played 5 matches on the year, right? Or 4. He's 2-2. Like, that's not a base. And if he loses early again, time could be running out before Roland Garros.
Is that? I think Djokovic hadn't even played before Monte Carlo. Maybe, pretty sure.
Oh, he played Dubai. Lost to Vesely in the third round.
Oh yeah. So he did. Yeah, totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, just to say the obvious, like, the tour is better when he's playing actively. Like, come on, man.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've had years and years to be anti-Djokovic, but the guy's game is absolutely playing Andy. Sorry, I should establish that. But the guy's game is just irresistible to me. I absolutely love it. So
it's fantastic. And I think even in 2017, when it was like the Fadal Renaissance and everyone was losing their minds because those two have so many fans, like, I think even then Djokovic's absence was very pronounced. He's really needed to kind of round out those top guys. He is the top guy still. So here's hoping he gets some matches soon.
Fingers crossed.
Another match in Belgrade I definitely want to see is a Team and Millman, because I think Team is going to have to hit a lot of shots. That's tomorrow morning. So I'm definitely going to try to catch that.
I think, based on Team's last match, he should lose that, really.
I think so, too.
Yeah. If he gets through, do you know who he's against in his first round?
I don't. I feel like if he gets through that would already make the tournament a success, though. Just because his one loss was pretty flat, even though that's to be expected. First match of the comeback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I've well, not a question, but I just thought it would be interesting if you wanted to talk about FAA. You might not even remember, because he went out quite early in the tournament. He went out in the first round, sorry, but it was quite a. I don't know. I don't even think people noticed he lost, really. He lost to
Musetti, I think. Right?
Yeah, he lost to Musetti. Yeah. And obviously Musetti, it's not really a worrying loss per se, but this FAA has lost, I think, 5 of his last 6 matches or something like that. Yeah. And this is all sort of going off the back of the Rotterdam title, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't. That's the record since then, I'm pretty sure. Is that a worry? Or no, he reached the final of Marseille, of course. But apart from that, it's been a pretty big dip. I'm hearing people saying we shouldn't really be worried, but I don't know. It's kind of turning into something. I think.
I disagree with that. I think it absolutely
Yeah.
is something. I think so if we look at his results, Miami, well, it looks like he played in something called the Grand Prix Hassan 2, where he lost in the second round to Molkan.
Morocco. Marrakesh even.
Yeah, and then Miami first round loss to Kecmanovic. I think honestly we can discount that just because Kecmanovic was so red hot. But Indian Wells first round loss to Van de Zandschulp. And I don't know. I don't think it's great, especially because like ATP Cup, he was fantastic. Australian Open, he was fantastic. Rotterdam, he finally got the monkey off his back with that title. Destroyed Tsitsipas, beat Rublev from a set down. Yeah, this is 3 big tournaments in a row now. That's definitely a problem. I hope he gets it back.
Yeah, and clay as well. I mean, I don't think he's ever had success in clay. I could be wrong about that, but he's definitely way more of a hard court than he's a clay court. Against Musetti, he looked lost, to be honest. Like, he's been used to smacking in serves and hitting massive forehands, like inside in, basically all of the hard court season, and like all of a sudden, I barely used that play, honestly. Like, they were kind of just spraying. I think he was trying to get it into the corners, like way deeper than he needed to and stuff. He looked confused, definitely. And Musetti made him look kind of, honestly, like sort of top 100 rather than top 10. So
yeah, it's not ideal. And Musetti is a great clay courter, but I feel like the game plan against him should be fairly simple. Just try to pummel that backhand. Use the inside out forehand attack. But yeah, if I'm kind of worried for Auger-Aliassime on clay, if he doesn't have the patience to do that, or if he isn't willing to do that. Clay is a surface you would like to be able to be decent on. I mean, that was a big thing for Medvedev for a while, and then he kind of stopped that with the run to the quarterfinals at Roland Garros last year. Yeah, I just think as a top 10 player, you want to be at least competent on clay.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty massive chunk of the season. I think about 30% or so. So
yeah,
you don't really need to. You can just discount grass, have a little break or something before Washington or whatever comes up, the City Open. But clay, you can't really afford to do that. But unless you're Federer, obviously,
right?
Or Andy, all the big guys are doing it nowadays, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think most of the top players could honestly skip the grass season at this point because their odds of winning it are so low. Like if you look at Tsitsipas, it's early. I cannot see him ever winning Wimbledon. I just don't see it happening. I think Auger-Aliassime could win Wimbledon, but I don't really see him winning Roland Garros unless something massive changes. And it's funny because for most top players, it's the other way around. But for Auger-Aliassime, it's like, yeah, I think things could happen on grass, but not clay.
Definitely for Tsitsipas, definitely the return is just way too much of a deficit of this, but that's kind of it, to be honest. The rest of his game's pretty good. I heard Greg Rosetsky say something about a lack of serve variety, but I don't know. I think it's the return for me that's the biggest. Greg says
stuff. Yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, his second serve is one of the best, and he hits aces. He's got all the serves.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, he and this happened a lot in Monte Carlo. He does benefit from being able to use a lot of variety on clay. Way more than any other surface, obviously. Like the kicker out wide basically guarantees him a forehand on second serve as well. That's a massive benefit for him. Kind of underrated, to be honest. But then he's got, I don't know, he has got other weapons that could be effective on grass. I think that's just the only thing holding him back. The return.
Yeah, I mean, he volleys more effectively than most of the top players. I mean, his slice isn't great, but he does have a slice, which people seem to love. And the serve and the forehand are fantastic. So yeah, but that return, I mean, again, he's young, but I don't think it's improved that much in the last year or two. So I'm not sure how much it's going to improve going forward.
Yeah, so I agree, definitely. I have another player to talk about, maybe if you were up for it.
Absolutely.
I'd just be interested to hear what you think of Sinner.
I was impressed with him. I was bummed that he didn't beat Zverev, but I thought he competed well. Yeah. And I like what I've seen from him this year. I think the Australian Open loss to Tsitsipas shook him quite a bit. I think that was tough to take. I mean, I think did he fire his whole team after that?
I suppose he did, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that I think was probably an overreaction, but I think it's got to be tough when you essentially when you lose handily to a significantly better player and it's just shoved in your face like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he had a pretty good sunshine double.
Mm-hmm.
And I think clay might be his best surface, honestly.
Yeah. I had a take on it basically, which is what I was going to say. I think he totally goes under the radar on clay because he's had such tough opponents.
Yeah,
Basically last season definitely. I'm sure it was Djokovic and Monte Carlo in the first round, and that was just like he learned stuff from that match definitely that he wouldn't have learned from other players, like how basically the defensive qualities of a really good player. He had no idea somebody could be that good. And
right.
I'm sure it was Rafa in like the first couple of rounds in Barcelona, and I'm pretty sure Rome. I might be
Rome
wrong,
and Roland Garros in the quarters, I think.
was it the French Open this year as well?
Yeah, that was not a good match. He went up a break in the first set and then basically collapsed for the rest of the match. But
Yeah.
he did make the quarters, so.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I think he's got a lot more potential than we've seen of him, definitely. And like against Zverev, he had a massive chance. And fair play to Zverev if he did actually play well in that tiebreak, unfortunately. But Sinner had chances, definitely. He had a forehand inside out, missed that, and that was kind of
That was
5-0.
yeah, that was the moment for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to kind of get your take on Sinner just in general because I find him a very hard player to read. I saw on Twitter a while ago, and I can't really remember who said it, but they said that for most players, there's something they can use in their head to kind of define that player. Like Nadal might be his topspin, Djokovic could be his returning, Alcaraz might be the forehand or the speed. And Sinner, I think, is just kind of hard to get a read on. And I'm not sure if his personality plays into that. Like, I know he hits the ball cleanly and he does everything pretty well, but I'm still not exactly sure how good he is, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know if he's had a signature match yet.
I've got two sort of defining characteristics for him. Huge on both sides is one of them. Like he hits the backhand bigger. You might have seen that stat. Like he hits the backhand bigger than I think maybe only Basilashvili hits it bigger. He's sort of second on tour and certainly the most spin on tour on the backhand. So he's able to come up with angles, massive shots you wouldn't expect really from anybody else. And the forehand's massive as well. There's players with as big a forehand as him, but the two sides are almost of a similar quality, definitely. The other thing that statistically he's got over other players is that he's amazing on break points. He is the pressure player of the next gen for me at the moment. He plays so much better than anybody else on break points. This isn't conjecture. This is statistical. Like you watch his matches, like he plays those points pretty much exactly the same as any other point. I'm sure it's the ethos as well has been drilled into him. Juan Carlos Ferrero taught this to Carlos Alcaraz. The importance of making a first serve on break point, even if it's not an amazing first serve. Sinner makes first serves on break points in his sleep. He looks like he's unflappable, definitely. I think that those are the two things for me that sort of set him apart from other players, definitely.
Yeah, and those are great observations. I was wondering, and it's really early to say, but what do you think his ceiling is? Like, how far do you think he can go? Is he a multi-major winner? Is he a single major winner? How soon can this happen?
Yeah, it's tough at the moment. He's got loads of stuff he can improve. Definitely, serve could definitely get better. Still a few placement issues, but he's getting a lot better at that. Definitely. Maybe the odd sort of wrong shot as well. This is all stuff that he can get ironed out though. Definitely, I genuinely think he's got the potential to be multi-major. But there hasn't even been a multi-major winner besides those four players and Stan, obviously. For the last 20, 30 years, or 20 years even. Something like 15 years, I guess. So, those sort of statements are we'll say a slam winner, definitely. I think that's not that crazy a take, is it? I think he has still got further he can go, definitely. Quite a bit further he can go. So I think, I don't think that's too crazy a take for sure. To say that he's going to win a slam. A lot of people saying as well, I saw this, I find it interesting that people have this take, and I wonder if you agree with it, that because Alcaraz was so successful, this is just something they say in the fucking break room with Rosetsky and
sure.
to be fair, but nonetheless, because Alcaraz was so successful, it spurred on Sinner's success in Monte Carlo.
I don't know. I mean, I think that would be no more the case for Sinner than it would be for any of the other young guys. Like you see someone who's threatening to leapfrog you, and you makes you want to get better as well. I mean, and there are a lot of comparisons between the two, but I mean, they're both young, they both hit the ball hard, and they both have two-handed backhands. I think that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's silly. I also think, these are professional tennis players that have these takes, obviously. So I do find it. I think honestly, I think they know it's bullshit. But tennis players are so insular. Like I don't think they ever look at what's going on with another player. They just think, who's the opponent across the net? This is who I'm playing. Okay, they don't even look further than the draw. It's like, today I'm playing this player. They really kind of keep their heads down and get on with what they've got to do, because that's the easiest. That is a benefit to you mentally. That will give you an advantage in your match if you're not looking at what's going on with other players.
Yeah, so. And I think we as fans, and sometimes this is even true tactically, I think we pay attention to the little stuff much more than players. Like I think these debates we have on Twitter with like this stat and that stat and like this tactic and that tactic, if you showed that to a player, I think they might say like, I don't think about that ever. Like what? It's more about just trying to play my game and all of that. And I think sometimes 100%. That hurts them, but I think that helps them stay steady mentally.
Yeah. Well, there's some players that definitely do that over other players. I'm sure Tim Henman had said, used the phrase helicopter player once. So like players who play outside of themselves and watch the match, basically, try and figure stuff out. There's there's players that do that way better than other players. Like Andy obviously is one of the best at it for sure. Yep. And then you've got somebody like, actually Rafa's quite good at it, to be fair. I was trying to think of somebody who asserts their game and just does that basically and doesn't think about anything else. Just like, can I hit a serve plus a forehand? Maybe Tsitsipas, I don't know actually. He can be a bit insular sometimes. But I'd
say Shapovalov is one of the
definitely.
I think his mission is to bash the ball and it doesn't go much further than that.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Sometimes I feel like there's a bit of clarity on court. I'm sure there was a few serving volleys during the AO when he was playing Rafa and he was down those 2 sets, and he played really well. But then other times
that was incredible.
It was a really good match. Exactly. And it's kind of a match that got away from him. But exactly. Then we had that 5th set where he had one return game he played terribly. It was one service game he played terribly, and it was literally just like 4 unforced errors off his forehand. And it's like, you didn't need to go that crazy to beat Rafa. Rafa was waning. He did not play anywhere near his best. He won way less points than Chapo. Not way less, sorry, but a few less points in the 5th set. It's like
that was a brutal match to watch, because I remember in the first 2 sets, Chapo did not have a game plan at all. He was hitting to Nadal's forehand without fear, but also without pace. And so he got destroyed. And then he came back and I was like, okay, this is good. And then it was all for nothing in the end. And then the presser after just made it so much worse. I mean, the level is not his problem. I think he's got deeper mental struggles and deeper inconsistencies than most of the other top players.
Definitely. Yeah. That was honestly, it was such a shame, because he honestly looked shocked he'd lost the match. Kind of like Tsitsipas losing to Djokovic last year at the French Open. It was like, I don't even know what happened in that 5th set. Like, I was playing better than that guy. I don't know what the hell happened to me.
And I think honestly, that's a really dangerous way of thinking. Like, I think that's when you have to look at the analytics. I mean, I remember way back in 2013, there was a match at the Australian Open between Federer and Tsonga. And Federer won in 5. But it was one of those matches where Tsonga kind of played better throughout and maybe should have won. And after the match, he said, like, I don't even know what the difference is between me and the top 4. Maybe they're just more talented. And it's like, no, that's not your problem. You need to be focused in the 5th sets. That's your problem. Yeah. But he didn't know that. And it's like, maybe if he had, things would have been different. And these guys are young, but I think it's never too early to learn these lessons.
I just realised, obviously, we were having this conversation off the back of us talking about Sinner, I'm pretty sure. I think Sinner is quite an insular player, and Alcaraz is maybe not so insular. To me, he's more of a player that reacts to how stuff is going, and that will benefit him for sure, because he's as aggressive as they come, obviously, but he definitely plays points differently, probably because of the amount of variety he's got in his game, depending on the situation, and that's probably going to be maybe the difference between the two of them, and probably why I think Alcaraz is, and probably everybody thinks Alcaraz has got a higher ceiling than Sinner.
Yeah, I mean, he's so absurdly versatile that if something isn't working, it's not an issue for him at all. Whereas I think for most players, if the serve and forehand is not getting it done, it's kind of panic, or they go to a plan B. I mean, if you compare Alcaraz to Rublev, for example, that is night and day. And
Rublev, that is the insular player. That's definitely
fair point
for sure. I was gonna say Alcaraz. To be fair, in Monte Carlo this week did look a little bit frazzled, and maybe that old adage of having too many choices, maybe looking like it sort of bit him a little bit. But to be fair, when his forehand's not working, and that is what wasn't really working, he did look a bit vulnerable, to be fair. So maybe we'll see a bit more weakness from over the coming months. We'll see.
Yeah, I think I said this on Twitter, and I think either I didn't phrase it right or I exaggerated, but I think at this point in his career right now, I think his ceiling is probably a bit higher on a hard court, just because with his serve, he can get a little bit more out of it on hard, and on clay, there are going to be certain opponents who can make every service game hell. Like, I think if he plays Djokovic, and Djokovic is playing well, I don't see how Alcaraz is going to hold serve with any kind of reliability. And I think that'd be a little more possible on hard court. So I feel like until that gets better, clay could be a struggle against the very best.
Yeah. It's actually interesting because in Miami, he doesn't have a massive serve. He has a pretty good serve, but he doesn't have a serve that he places amazingly, like Tsitsipas, Zverev, Medvedev, or anything like that. But he basically never ever gave up an offensive position in any of his service games throughout Miami. He was always on the front foot, whether it took him 5 shots, 9 shots, whatever. He eventually found a way to win the point, and never looked like his opponent was comfortable, just by virtue of blasting in a 120-mile-an-hour serve down the middle of the service box, basically. So I get that. I totally get that, Owen. But I also thought maybe just not having a serve would be a bit of a leveler for Alcaraz compared to other players. But then he just didn't hit the ground running this week. So I still think he will have a chance to get away with not having the best serve in the world. That might benefit him more so in a place like Rome, for example. Maybe not Madrid, but I think we could see him playing really well at the Rome Masters.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the serve isn't going to hurt him everywhere. I remember against Berrettini at the Australian Open, after the second set, I think he only faced one break point, even though he lost that match. But yeah, if that gets better, and I should say, I think Korda is a very tough first rounder. I think he would have beaten most players, but Korda, easy power, good returner. You can't really fake your way through that match, I guess, especially if you're not playing well. I definitely give Alcaraz a pass on this. I'm excited to see what he does next.
I think it depends who he plays. I actually think if he had a better serve against somebody like Tsitsipas, it wouldn't make much of a difference compared to how he plays against him now, for example, on a hard court. I think against the best returners in the world, definitely Djokovic or even Medvedev, there might be a different scenario. I actually think Djokovic is a worse matchup for him than Medvedev. So I was really excited to see that. Obviously, it didn't happen. RIP.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get that matchup.
I'm praying for it. I think even against Nadal, he needs a bit of a bigger serve, because I remember in that first set again in Indian Wells, Alcaraz was saving all these break points. Like, Nadal was like 3 for 15 by the end of the first set. And it was wild how many he was saving. But I was thinking, even during it, I was like, it does not matter how many you save if you face 15 break points in one set. And he did start playing better towards the end, especially on serve. But that's something you want to take care of. You have to be able to get those easy service holds.
Yeah, definitely. But then I still stand by that. Like, the guy doesn't look like he really, in Miami, barely missed a shot. Like, if he had time on the ball, he barely ever missed it. So it didn't even really matter that he wasn't putting the serve away from his opponents. He honestly was just on the front foot the whole time. And that's why he didn't get broken that much. I mean, he barely got broken in Miami. I'm sure, against the 3 top 10 players he played, Ruud maybe broke him twice, I think.
Yeah,
and then Hurkacz
once or twice.
Literally twice over the course of however many games. I think 15 service games, and then Hurkacz 0 times. So and then Tsitsipas once as well. Yeah. So it gives you a pretty good idea. Like against 3 top teners, he's barely getting broken.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I mean, his peak level is so high as well. But like when he put things together, he would go on runs of like 4, 5, 6 games against anyone. And I actually thought the same thing when Tsitsipas was playing Schwartzman. I actually wasn't watching this match, but I remember I opened Twitter and everyone's like, oh my God, like from 6-3, 5-2 to this, like what's happening? And I saw he was down 4-0 in the third set. And I looked at that and I thought, and I think maybe for me the stakes were lower because it wasn't in front of me, but I looked at that and I was like, if he starts playing well, he can still win this, especially against Schwartzman. I think Tsitsipas on clay, I wouldn't put it past him to win 6 games in a row. And not saying I would have bet money on it, but it's one of those situations where at his best or near his best, he's so good that he can just roll through people.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, he played I'm sure it was like 40-30 for love. The point he won there was like a backhand down the middle approach. So, okay, that point aside, that point looked a little bit like ADF throwing in the till with the underarm serve sort of point. That point aside, it's like he totally stepped it up and he got away with that point, and then he played amazingly. The diving volley, I'm still not over.
That was wonderful. Yeah,
I'm still not on it. Like, it was amazing. It was so good. Like
when Schwartzman hit that pass, it was like that's a break point about to come. And that was. I mean, that was ridiculous. And during a week where we saw a lot of diving volleys, that he was able to control that while airborne is amazing.
I know, it was incredible. So yeah, I mean, who's your picks for the upcoming tournaments? I think the biggest one obviously coming up is Madrid, I guess. Barcelona's pretty big as well, but yeah, Madrid's obviously an outlier on clay, high altitude. Big serves actually make a big difference. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think even with it playing the least like Roland Garros, I think that answer depends a little bit on where Nadal is at this point. I think some are saying he'll be back by then. Others are saying he won't. That's a tough question.
New Nadal should be better at Madrid than old Nadal, to be honest. But
for sure.
He's still
2019. He lost to Tsitsipas there.
Yeah, so he did. Yeah. What, last year he lost his Zverev, I think. I mean, he still loses to the best guys in the world, to be fair, at the tournament. But yeah, they probably do have an advantage over him. A big serve. I mean, Zverev looked unbreakable last year, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. And Berrettini made that final as well, right?
Yeah, he did.
He also got a lot of mileage out of his serve. I don't think Djokovic is going to be ready, even though he usually does pretty well in Madrid. I think I don't see Tsitsipas winning a second straight Masters 1000. I don't think Thiem is going to be ready.
Maybe well, go on. Yeah, go on.
I'm going to say Alcaraz wins.
I was literally just about to say that. So I was going to say like the perfect marriage between clay and hard course. Maybe actually might benefit Alcaraz. Who knows? Yeah, I agree definitely. I don't know. Well, you'll do well. I think maybe he's my favorite. Depending on I don't want to say like Zverev actually.
Right. I was thinking he would have a decent shot. I mean, I do think like. The good news is like he's still not one of the very best. Like his best level on most clay courts is still below that of Djokovic, Nadal, Tsitsipas.
Definitely.
Except maybe at Madrid, that's maybe not as much the case.
It's definitely not. He looked a way better player than Rafa last year. Definitely.
Yeah, that was a weird match. That was but yeah, he's a contender. As unfortunate as that is to say. I think Sinner could do some good things in Madrid as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I'd forgotten about that actually. Hopefully. Yeah, I want to see Sinner break out properly soon. He has kind of broken out, but you know what I mean. Right. Big title for him, definitely. In the same manner as Alcaraz. Yeah, that would be good.
Maybe Ruud as well. He could be a contender, but besides the people we've named, I don't think anyone has a shot, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Maybe Medvedev will surprise us. Who knows?
Oh, is he even coming back from Madrid? I thought he pulled out of everything ahead of Roland Garros.
Did he actually? Are you sure?
I think he did, yeah. Or maybe it was Berrettini. He's pulled out of a lot of stuff, though.
He's been injured, so it could be Berrettini. Not sure. I want Medvedev to win. That's my heart talking, definitely.
Medvedev is a Masters 1000 champion on clay. That would be
Yeah,
that would be something. If he gets there before Dominic Thiem, something is fundamentally off with the universe.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
I mean, I will say I really want Medvedev to like play Tsitsipas again at Roland Garros because that was a very fun match last year.
Yeah, it was. Tsitsipas was always winning it
Yeah,
from how it panned out, but yeah, I mean Medvedev made it entertaining, definitely.
yeah. I mean, and that underarm serve haunts my dreams each and every night.
It's funny. It's just very, yeah, it's very
I
him.
was I was writing a live blog of that match, and I remember he was up 40 love in that last game, and so I was like, okay, 40-15, and then I think it went to deuce and Tsitsipas hit a winner, and I was like, okay, like danger time, and then he hit the underarm serve, and I just sat there for 5 minutes trying to think of what to write. It's like no spin, no angle, and he charged the net behind it. Like, what are you doing? I mean, this still annoys me, and it's been almost a year. But in general, it was a fun match. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as a Medvedev fan, it's pretty heartbreaking to see him do that, but pretty perplexing. But I suppose that's part and parcel of the guy. I love it at the same time.
Yeah, he's a package. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I guess to kind of wrap up, what were you most surprised by in Monte Carlo, and did you see anything that would maybe has the potential to alter what we think is going to happen this clay season?
Mm, I mean, honestly, in hindsight, ADF getting to the final. If there was a tournament I would have picked him to do well at, it would have been this one. And we all knew he was a good player. He just had a big weakness. Probably Alcaraz losing the second round, actually. That was definitely the biggest surprise for me. I mean, he just played a shit match. I think everybody forgot he was a human, which was nice for the tour to know as well. So yeah, probably that, and it was quite disappointing. Obviously, everybody's an Alcaraz fan nowadays, aren't they? So
oh yeah,
I think everybody wanted to see him do well. So
yeah, I mean, I can't hide it. I want to watch him every time he plays. Such a dynamic player. Yeah, I do think that seems like a bigger upset than the Djokovic match, as crazy as that is to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because Alcaraz is on that amazing run of form. So yeah, I think for me, like being reminded that he's human, that could potentially change things, because after Miami, that was that little part of me. It was like, who's going to beat him? Like, what's it going to take? And then immediately you have the answer. So that kind of makes things settle back to the mean a little bit. And I agree with you on Fokina. I didn't even see him beating Djokovic, to be honest. Like in the first round, everyone was saying, oh, it's such a tough draw. And I was still kind of thinking, like, it's Djokovic. It doesn't matter who he gets in the first round. Like, this is going to be 3 and 4. And it was most definitely not. So all credit to him for that. I think, I guess, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting Tsitsipas to win the tournament, even though he was the favorite after those early upsets. Absolutely. I think I wasn't convinced by how he had been playing recently. So I'm very impressed that he was able to turn it around.
I mean, I don't normally get those sort of things right, so I might as well big myself up when I do get it right. But I knew he was a much better player on clay, which I said that at the start of the pod. Biggest disparity probably between the two surfaces for me. He's so much more comfortable in there, and he wasn't playing terribly in hard courts for me. Obviously, he had a little spell of maybe. I was saying that it didn't last that long. He was amazing in Australia, like so good. So he was obviously capable of tapping into that. He'd done so well last year with a really tidy sort of. I mean, he didn't drop a set last year. He had that one tough match this year, and all the other matches were in straight sets. He just looked like he was rolling with this base level. It was so difficult to beat. So yeah, didn't surprise me really. That he won the tournament, definitely.
Yeah. So who do you think is going to break his clay winning streak? If it gets broken at all, I guess I should acknowledge that possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how Novak does. If we're basing it on current form, Sinner probably is the guy with the best chance for me at the moment. Zverev just looked like he was getting picked apart by Tsitsipas. And then Medvedev, obviously not. Rafa, yeah. I mean, Rafa, but that actually it's a pretty good matchup for Tsitsipas. He doesn't really get battered on the one-hander just because he covers it so well. And his forehand's, pretty, obviously not quite as good as Nadal's, but honestly,
it's as close as anyone's at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's totally as close as anybody's on clay for sure to Rafa's, and he's got a better serve. So it came down to 1 point literally last time. I put Sinner over Nadal if he can play as well as I know he can play, but we'll see. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, now we're like, who the hell's going to beat Tsitsipas? But
right.
He's probably going to lose in the first round of
I know.
Madrid,
and
so.
I mean, tennis changes so much tournament to tournament because it's like, the Sunshine Double, everyone was beyond drunk on Alcaraz hype. And then Monte Carlo starts and he's out immediately and you focus on other players. And then by the end of the tournament, it's like, oh yeah, Alcaraz, he's a thing. Like he's going to be back. It changes so quickly.
I know everybody was genuinely on the Sinner hype as well as he progressed through the rounds and he beat Rublev. Everybody again was like, "Oh, it's definitely gonna be Sinner that's got the most slams now for sure." That guy Alcaraz, he's old news, definitely. Yeah, I love it. It's just funny to see. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. You always need to do a little zoom out every time you do these predictions and just realize that tennis is an ever-changing landscape.
Right. I mean, but it is so tough to kind of resist what your eyes are telling you, though, because last year when Djokovic lost to Dan Evans in straight sets at Monte Carlo, who at that moment was thinking him to win the French Open, and then
very good point. I totally forgot that actually. Yeah. I mean, So going on history, Djokovic is probably going to be fine. You're quite right.
Yeah, people wrote articles saying like Dirtball Dan is a thing. Like he's so good on clay. It's just like I can't believe that's the universe we're living in. But stuff like this happens every week in tennis, which is great.
Yeah, oh my god, that's not that take hasn't lived up very well, I don't think. Pretty sure Dan won like 2 more matches after that on clay or something like that.
Yeah, who did he even lose to at Monte Carlo? I think he was slated to play Djokovic again, actually.
What was he against? ADF? No, he wasn't against ADF, was he?
That sounds right.
He was against Goffin. Lost to Goffin.
Oh, okay.
Yes, of course. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So he, it was going to be Goffin against Djokovic, wasn't it, or him basically?
Right.
Yeah, I actually did see that match as well. Obviously, we're going off track here. We're wrapping up, but anyway, I'll say very quickly. Dan still does look all right, actually, on clay. But I mean, obviously, you know what I mean? Like, he's a top player. He probably isn't going to win many more matches, though. Goffin was really good in that match, but he just, he kind of outpicks players more so than he does on other surfaces on clay, if that makes sense. Like, he totally beat Djokovic just by like playing
slicing.
yeah, exactly.
It has been nice to see Goffin having some good results recently, though, because he's had terrible luck throughout his career. Really bad record against the top players. Had a great year in 2017, but then kind of had a tough time building off of that. So it's nice just to see him getting wins again because he works. Yes. You can tell. So
100%. Yeah. Kind of similar vibes to how Monfils has been playing this year.
For sure.
It's sort of like, you know, I just like I get pleasure just seeing them win matches full stop. Like it's a nice feeling. Definitely.
Yeah, Monfils almost. I mean, it was really gratifying to watch him at the Australian Open, but it also kind of broke my heart a little bit because you knew even in the quarters he wasn't going to win that tournament. And then after he lost to Berrettini, he seems really sad, and he said he still wanted to get a major. I was like, I really want that for you, man, but I just don't see it. So
it's not happening. Yeah. He wasn't at Monte Carlo, was he? What happened to him?
No, I don't think so. I'll see the last match you played. Google is pretty wonderful.
Yeah, I just tried it. I suppose it's because he hasn't just played a tournament. It's not coming up. But
yeah, here I'll pull up his ATP profile. Yeah, I mean he's 21st in the world right now, which is very solid.
21st, is he? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I suppose a lot of that will be Australia. Maybe that's quite harsh. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I do that quite a lot. I get sidetracked. You were wrapping up the pause, weren't you?
No, it's all good. I mean, you know, there's no time limits here.
Oh no, true.
Do you have any final thoughts?
We've covered pretty much all of that. I don't think I've got anything else to say. Yeah, that was kind of it. I've covered who I think is going to be doing well going forward, who did so well at this tournament and stuff. Yeah, I think the only other thing I missed out was that Casper Ruud is still playing hardcourt tennis on a clay court, which is ironic. He honestly looked so confused against Dimitrov. Like he was like,
really?
Why isn't? Yeah, like, why?
I missed that match.
Like he couldn't use his backhand to get up in the point. Like serve plus forehand just wasn't doing the same damage at all. He wasn't getting any 3 points off his serve, obviously, and then kind of looked a bit confused in the serve plus forehand and stuff. He played a really bad match actually, for how well he can play. So it'll be interesting to see if he picks himself up after this tournament.
Looks like he could only break serve once. Tomorrow he's playing Nakashima in the first round of Barcelona. So that'll be
at the same time, Nakashima also, but definitely not the best clay court in the world at the moment for sure. So Ruud, it should be a nice.
He should win that for sure.
Yeah, it should be a nice way to settle. Definitely.
Yeah. Just to ask about that really quickly, how do you think Ruud is going to do this clay season? Because he's done some good things. He's gone deep in a lot of Masters 1000s. He's never done that well at Roland Garros yet. And he's kind of top player, but not elite player quite yet. So I was wondering how far do you think he can go this year?
Based off what he just did at Monte Carlo, I'm not expecting too much of him this week. Just, if I'm just expecting the transition from hard courts to clay to still be as jarring as it was for him in Monte Carlo. But, I could see him doing really well at a Masters tournament. I don't know if the slam issues are mental or maybe it's just sustaining a level over a certain period of time, possibly, that he struggles with. Because, he was so up and down against ADF last year at the French Open. And really not a match he should have been losing given ADF's form at the time. He was playing pretty well, obviously, but Casper Ruud was the better player at that point for sure. I don't know. I actually also whose take was it from Popcorn Tennis again? Was it Stevens?
Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
250 farmer or future star. That's one of my favorite headlines on the site.
I wouldn't quite go as far as that for sure, but I do kind of think he's not the sort of player that beats players ranked above him at the moment.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I feel like I see him making the quarterfinals at Roland Garros. Probably not going farther than that unless he gets a nice draw.
Exactly, yeah. That's when he'll play a higher seed than him. Yeah, it's probably where he'll go out. Like he played really well against Zverev. It's really weird actually, because I actually think his hardcore game's amazing now, and I would stand by that. Like I suppose I haven't seen him play on clay for ages. Maybe that's when I did watch him on clay, he was rubbish. So I maybe that's what's putting me off backing him, to be fair. So we'll see. He'll probably play really well. Sod's law, I think. Now that I've said it.
I think he should have at least one good tournament. But yeah, I do think the clay specialist thing, and even me with Tsitsipas earlier this episode, can kind of get overused. Like I think people use it for team for a while, and he turned out to be amazing on hard courts. I don't know if he's going to get back to that level, but he did some absurdly good things on hard courts. And Ruud almost winning a Masters 1000. So yeah,
I made that comparison. I think at the time, like to him and team, I definitely think the improvements he had to make on hard court have made him a really good player overall, a better player. But some of those improvements are moot on clay. So it's like, what does he do now? Like, he's kind of going to have to go back to square one and totally reassess how he plays tennis. So
yeah, and I think that goes back to what you said earlier about Monte Carlo being a huge switch from Miami as well. I think for a lot of top players, you can kind of discount how they do there just because the clay season is so long.
Yeah. So if I'm basing on anything that's happened, I think give him a while. But yeah, you could do, I think, quarters at French Open, but that might be the only success he has in the clay season, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, gotcha.
That's a big take, actually.
It's so interesting.
I would be surprised. Just I'll put that in there. But yeah, I'll stick with that.
Okay, yeah. It's funny just because I do think the tennis world in general still sees him as a clay guy. Maybe because that Nick Kyrgios Twitter beef just amplified it so much,
Yeah.
but because that's what people think about when they think Casper Ruud.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting take. I think I'm a bit more optimistic about him than you are, but yeah, we'll have this saved for the end of the clay season.
Oh no, yeah, so. Oh my god, yeah. Somebody actually, when I had that really hot take of his, where bookmarked the tweet and stuff, he said, "Oh, bookmarked," and he's gonna probably shove it in my face when Zverev eventually wins a major. But love it. Obviously, like, as soon as you put that out there, you're just like you're hung up to dry as soon as it goes wrong. Yeah. And you get no praise when it's right as well. It's like
I know, yeah.
It's a lose-lose situation.
And sometimes people will try to prove you wrong, but about a different point than the one you were trying to make. And it's like, well, I didn't really say that if you go back and look. But we love Twitter for it's good and it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. For better or worse, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I'll stand by that, but I will back myself up by saying it's based on how he played at Monte Carlo. People, please don't fry me when he wins the Rome Masters or wherever.
Right, Rome. Yeah, I'm trying to come up with a good hot take for the clay season, but I just think on the men's side, it's so, I don't want to say predictable. It's just so hard to pick a dark horse to do anything on clay because, like the people at the top are so good. I don't know, I guess.
But it's where you should get the most upsets, though, to be fair.
It is, yeah. I guess I'll say I think Thiem is going to find his form faster than some people think. Like, I could see him causing a stir at one of the big tournaments going forward.
Mm-hmm. How about Hurkacz? We didn't cover Hurkacz, actually.
We didn't, no. And who did he lose to?
Dimitrov in the quarters.
Okay, and that was 3 sets, right?
Yeah, it was a third set tiebreak.
Right. I don't think that's a bad loss at all. Especially
it's not at all. No, not at all. That's what he won. Like, did he win any matches on clay last year? He might have won 1 or something.
None of them were memorable, at least if he did. Yeah, I feel like he's set to make some improvements. I could see him going to the 4th round at Roland Garros, maybe.
Yeah, even that's a pretty hot take, to be honest. Yeah, given but obviously he was amazing at Monte Carlo, considering he should be really bad on clay. But he just
right. I mean, he just has nothing to hit through the court with after the serve.
But the serve was big. That's pretty much it. The serve was big enough, which is a surprise because even like players like Zverev were struggling to hit through the court with their serve. Yeah. So,
Hurkacz also uses the net so well, and that helps.
Yeah, definitely. But like honestly, like he might be like right up there. Top 3 servers in the world right now, genuinely. Like he serves so well. Like that he honestly shouldn't be winning matches at Monte Carlo, like based on everything I've just said throughout this podcast. Yeah. But like he did so well. He genuinely did.
Yeah, I mean I think he's one of the more fascinating players on tour in terms of his game because the serve is massive, but very little else is. And he's very solid. Like he's almost like a Medvedev, but not quite. And so he'll have these amazing runs. I mean, the match he played against Djokovic in Paris last year, I thought was great. Like he saved a match point and he was 2 points away from winning that match. But then he can also have some really sleepy losses when someone just kind of out hits him and gets the serve back. I could see him winning a Wimbledon one day. I don't know if I would ever bet on it, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he obviously semis last year. He was amazing and way better than anybody bar Berrettini of the next gen for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this before, but I think one of the less exciting things to come out of the next few years will be the ATP side at Wimbledon.
Definitely. I mean, unfortunately.
when Djokovic retires, the level is going to fall off a cliff.
I mean, there's one clear way that the next gen are going to be winning matches at Wimbledon, and it's not 50-shot rallies between Djokovic and Rafa. No. Ida, I don't think, unfortunately.
Right. I guess we can all hope that Alcaraz becomes a god on the grass courts.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Could happen. He's got weapons in there for sure.
I wouldn't put it past him.
That's one of the most exciting things for me, to see how well he plays on grass, because he'll have to totally scrub the slate clean from the clay season and come up with a new set of tactics and strategies to beat people. But it'll be really exciting to see what he uses and what he tries to get into play the most on grass, because obviously he's got so much to pick from. So.
Yeah, I mean, and grass is even shorter than clay. So if anyone decides to, pull a Medvedev and lose in the first round of everything. Like it's not like you get 4 matches, you get 2 matches or 1 if you don't play a warm up, and then it's like, yep, it's a year before you get to play on this surface again, unless you play Newport. So yeah, I mean, grass is so interesting now just because it's so abbreviated and so many top players skip the warm up, but then they lose early at Wimbledon. It's almost as if it didn't happen just because it goes by so quickly.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, Alcaraz probably hasn't. He might not have played on grass in his life. I don't know.
Yeah, he actually played Medvedev at Wimbledon last year, I think. And I think he lost in straights.
Oh, he must have got a little bit into the draw then. I forgot that.
I think he went through qualifying.
Did he? All right. Oh, he's probably brilliant then. Yeah, obviously. It's Alcaraz, isn't it? I'm just checking now. He beat Uchiyama from Japan.
Oh,
5-6.
Maybe he didn't need to go through qualifying. Yeah.
No, I think he did. Did you? I might be wrong about that, but I'll double check that.
Yeah, but he broke Medvedev twice, which is, I mean, he'd probably do better now, but not bad for an 18-year-old.
Not bad at all. Yeah. I can't see it. I do want to find out now. Just give me 2 seconds.
Wait, look at this. Actually, he has a quote from after that first rounder last year. I am really happy to reach the second round here at my first Wimbledon. It was a really tough match. I really like grass. I feel comfortable playing here. I could not play any tournaments on grass before Wimbledon, but every day I feel more comfortable.
Okay. Right, there you go.
Striking fear into the hearts of any ATP players listening to
this. Yeah, I'll be interested to see where the bookies put him. Definitely for Wimbledon.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, could be like 4th favorite at this point just because of the field. But yeah, I'm excited for that too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We've definitely went into
we've gone from clay to grass. So time to
literally Tsitsipas winning Monte Carlo to Carlos Alcaraz's chances at Wimbledon. So yeah.
I mean, tennis is such a fascinating sport. But yeah, thanks for joining me for this. It was a great recap, and you mentioned a lot of stats that I hadn't known of. So this was great. Thanks.